Welcome to Israel's Church of the Living God. I'm Brother Rodney, and Caleb will be reading today. We'll be doing the lesson today entitled, The Israelites, Black Roots. The Israelites, Black Roots, Part 1. The Israelites, Black Roots, Part 1. We often think of, the whole world often thinks of this one that calls himself a Jew as being the one that's over in Israel now. You know, his skin is white. Well, we're going to show you in the Bible today that the ancient Israelites are indeed a black people, just like the Egyptians, just like the Canaanites, just like the Ethiopians. They are indeed a black people. So, we're not going to make this a long, drawn-out lesson in it. We're just going to keep it practical, and we're going to keep it simple and show you that the Israelites, the ancient Israelites, and we're going to get down, because it's going to be maybe like a 3-part series, and we're going to get down to showing you that we indeed are the Israelites, and we are the offspring of the Israelites that's in the Bible. So, this is part one. It's the Israelites, black roots. We're going to start off in Matthew, the 1st chapter. Matthew, the 1st chapter. And, most people know that the Egyptians were dark-skinned people or black people. I just say black because that's what people are called a lot of times according to their color. Like, you got white people called white people. Not derogatory. You got the Indians, they call red people, right? You got the Mexican called brown, right? So, we're going to keep it in that frame of mind. Okay? So, we're going to start this off in Matthew, the 1st chapter. Matthew, the 1st chapter. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Matthew, the 1st chapter, and verse 1. Go ahead and read it.
The book of generations of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham begat Isaac.
Abraham begat Isaac. Go ahead.
And Isaac begat Jacob. And Jacob begat Judas.
Go ahead.
And his brethren.
Now, Jacob, we're going to concentrate on Jacob here. Jacob begot Judas and his brethren. Judah, which is Judas, and his brethren. So now, let's go take a look at Jacob. And we're going to bring in Jacob's brother Esau. Then, after that, we're going to show you who his brothers are, Judah's brothers are. Let's go to, first we're going to go to Genesis, the 25th chapter. Genesis 25. And then we're going to pick it up at verse 19. Genesis 25 and 19. And this is nothing militant or we some type of racist or nothing like that. This don't have nothing to do with that. We're just simply showing you who the ancient Israelites are, what color they were, rather.
Yes, sir.
That's it. Genesis 25 and 19. And anybody that has a problem with that has a problem with the Bible, because that's all we're going to do is just read. So we're not trying to offend nobody, right? I should have put that disclaimer in there first, huh? Anyway, Genesis 25, and we're going to pick it up in verse 19. Genesis 25 and 19. Go ahead and read it.
And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son.
Abraham
begot Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife.
So, we got Abraham, and then we got Isaac again, right? Go ahead.
Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Padanaram, the sister of Laban, the Syrian.
Go ahead.
And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived.
So now she was barren at first, and then they entreated the Lord. So then she conceived Isaac's wife, Rebekah. Go ahead and read.
22. And the children struggled together within her.
Now you see they said children, so she got twins, right? Go ahead.
And she said, If it be so, why am I thus? and she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb.
Go ahead.
And 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels.
Now, you know, the Lord called this, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
You know, because I got brothers saying that, you know, how could this be? How could it be 2 different nations and 2 different people? Hey, well, the Lord called it. If you believe the Lord, then you got to believe this then, right?
Yes, sir.
And if you don't believe the Lord, then you ain't going to believe this. Because, you know, they're trying to say that because they had the same mother and father, they had to be the same, Jacob and Esau had to still be the same people. But no, the book said 2 minor people in 2 different nations.
That's right, brother.
Go ahead and read.
And the one people shall be stronger than the other people. And the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb.
Go ahead.
And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau.
Now he's red and hairy all over. I'm going to show you later on this guy that's red and hairy all over. And maybe like part 2 or part 3. Go ahead and read.
Verse 26. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. And his name was called Jacob.
And his name, now they didn't mention what color Jacob was, did it?
No, sir.
But go ahead and read.
And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them.
Go ahead.
And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents.
Now we're gonna pick this story up in another lesson. We're gonna leave this right here. We're gonna deal with Esau in another lesson. So I just wanted you to see that Jacob had a twin brother Esau. And then it mentioned that Esau was red and hairy all over, but it didn't mention what color Jacob was, did it?
No, sir.
Now, Jacob's name was changed from Jacob to Israel. Let's go to Genesis, the 35th chapter. Genesis 35, and we're going to pick it up at verse 9. Genesis 35 and 9. This is how he got the name Jacob. God gave him, Israel. God gave him the name Israel.
That's right.
Genesis 35 and 9. Genesis 35 and 9. Go ahead.
And God appeared unto Jacob again when he came out of Padanaram and blessed him. And God said to him, Thy name is Jacob. Thy name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel.
See, so God changed his name from Jacob to Israel. God did this, didn't he? And if you go read, I think that's Genesis 27, he says, A prince thou hast power with God and with men and hath prevailed. But God changed his name from Jacob to Israel. Let's go look at Jacob's children, because it said Jacob had Judas and his brethren, right? So let's go look at his Judas brother, or the 12 sons of Jacob. Let's go to Exodus, the 1st chapter. Exodus, the 1st chapter. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Exodus 1 and 1. Exodus 1 and 1. Go ahead and read it.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel.
Now, he said these are the names of the children of Israel, the children of Jacob, right? Go ahead.
Which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob.
Go ahead.
Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls. For Joseph was in Egypt already.
Joseph was in Egypt already. So, how many sons did Jacob have then? 12. Which are what? The 12 tribes of Israel.
Yes, sir.
Now, let's go over to Psalm 105. And let's show you what land that Joseph and his son Joseph and Jacob were in. Let's go to Psalm 105. Let's see what this land was called. Because before Africa was called Africa, it was called something else.
Yes, sir.
Psalm 105, and we're going to pick it up at verse 17. Psalm 105 and 17. Everybody got it?
Amen.
Go ahead and read it.
He sent a man before them, even Joseph, who was sold for a servant, whose feet they hurt with fetters. He was laid in iron.
See, so because his brothers threw him in a hole, they were jealous of him and everything. Here come the dreamer and all this, and they threw him in the hole. Then the other brother got him out, and then so he was sold to the Ishmaelites. Then the Ishmaelites turned around and sold him to the Egyptians. And the Egyptians threw him in prison. Go ahead and read. What verse you at?
19.
Go ahead.
Until the time that his word came, the word of the Lord tried him. The king sent and loosed him, even the ruler of the people, and let him go free.
Go ahead.
He made him lord of his house and ruler of all his substance.
See, so the king or the Pharaoh at that time made Joseph the ruler of all his substance. Joseph was second in command. The book called him a viceroy. So he's like the vice president, what we call like the vice president of Egypt. He was the viceroy, calling all the shots, distributing the food, teaching the Egyptians wisdom and everything.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
Verse 22.
To
bind his princes at his pleasure. And to teach his senators wisdom.
Joseph was teaching his senators wisdom.
That's right, brother.
Go ahead and read.
Israel also came into Egypt.
Hold it now. He said Israel also came into Egypt. Who is Israel? Jacob.
Yes, sir.
He also came into Egypt. Go ahead.
And Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham.
He sojourned in what?
The land of Ham.
The land of Ham. And we're going to deal with Ham a little bit here. They sojourned in the land of Ham. So before Africa was called Africa, it was called the land of Ham.
That's right, brother.
Now, let's go to Genesis the 50th chapter, because Jacob died in Egypt. Jacob died in Egypt. Genesis 50, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Genesis 50 and 1. And let's see what they said at the funeral procession when Jacob died. Genesis 50 and 1. Go ahead and read it.
And Joseph fell upon his father's face, and wept upon him and kissed him.
Because Jacob had died, and Joseph was a viceroy in Egypt, and Joseph was running things, so he got his father and bombed him and all that stuff. Then he went over there and hugged him and kissed him. Go ahead and read.
And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. And the physicians embalmed Israel.
Go ahead.
And 40 days were fulfilled for him, for so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed. And the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days.
Go ahead.
And when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spake unto the house of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found grace in your eyes, speak, I pray. Speak, I pray you, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Lo, I die in my grave which I have digged for me in the land of Canaan. There shalt thou bury me. Now therefore let me go up, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again.
Go ahead.
And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury thy father according as he had made thee swear.
Because see, he wanted to be buried in the land of Canaan, because that's where Jacob came out of, the land of Canaan. In fact, before they came to Egypt, they was in the land of Canaan. We're going to see who these Canaanites are. But go ahead and read.
And Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
And all the house of Joseph and his brethren, and his father's house, only their little ones, and their flocks, and their herds, and they left in the land of Goshen.
Go ahead, because that's the land that Pharaoh and Joseph had gave the children of Israel, the land of Goshen. Go ahead.
And there went up
which was in Egypt. But go ahead.
Yes, sir. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company.
And it was a very great company. But go ahead and read.
And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jordan. And there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites...
Now, it said, and when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, these are the indigenous native people of this land. When they saw him, what happened?
When the Canaanites saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, this is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians.
This is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians. Go ahead.
Wherefore the name of it was called Abel Mizraim.
And wherefore the name of it was called what? Abel Mizraim.
Which is beyond Jordan.
And that's what Abel Mizraim means. A grievous mourning for the Egyptians. But why? If they were white-skinned, white people, the Israelites, why would the Canaanites say this is a grievous mourning for the Egyptians? And we're going to show you that the Egyptians were black people. We're going to show you that the Canaanites were black people. And then ultimately we're going to show you that the Israelites were black people. But you see what they said? Abel Mizraim, a great mourning for the Egyptians. Why are they calling Joseph's people Egyptians, or the Israelites Egyptians? Why are they calling them this? Let's go now. Let's go to 1 Chronicles, the first chapter. 1 Chronicles, the first chapter. And we're going to pick it up at verse 8. We're going to read one verse, verse 8. 1 Chronicles 1 and 8. Let's bring these Canaanites and these, first we're going to bring Ham on the scene along with his children. 1 Chronicles 1 and 8. Go ahead and read it.
The sons of Ham.
The sons of Ham. Because, you got Noah had 3 sons. Ham, Shem, and Japheth, right? So he said the sons of Ham. Go ahead.
Cush and Mizraim. Put in Canaan.
So Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan, right? Now, we're going to show you who is Cush. We look at that Ham's son now, Cush. Who is Cush?
Excuse me. Oldest son of Ham. The indefinite country translated Ethiopia.
It's translated what?
Ethiopia.
Ethiopia. So Cush is Ethiopia. Now everybody knows that the Ethiopians are black. So now we got Ham, son Cush.
Yes, sir.
Which is Ethiopia. Which is black, right? Let's see who Mizraim, his second oldest son. You got more? Go ahead and read.
The country settled by Ham's descendants.
So now, we got Cush. That's Ethiopia, right? Now let's see who his son Mizraim is.
Mizraim. Son of Ham. Progenitor of the Egyptians.
He is the progenitor of who?
Egyptians.
The Egyptians. So now, we got, can you come down for a minute? We got the Cushites, which are Ethiopians. Then we got Mizraim, which is what? The Egyptians. Go ahead, you got some more?
Yes, sir. People of North Africa, Hamitic people.
Hamitic people. They are North Africa. So the Cush is Ethiopia and Mizraim is Egypt. Now we're going to read you something right here about the Canaanites. Right there, yeah. We're going to read you something about the Canaanites. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Now this is a picture. This is a picture of the Canaanites. This is a picture of the Canaanites. This was taken out of an Egyptian tomb, out of a pyramid. Go ahead and read what that says.
Canaanite captives in Egypt being led before the Pharaoh. This relief, which portrays the general appearance of the Israelites.
Hold it now. You see this said Canaanite captives in Egypt. And I got my suspicions about these people right here. When it said Canaanite captives in Egypt being led before Pharaoh. But remember, Canaan is Ham's third son right there, ain't he?
That's right.
Or fourth son, rather. Right? So, which makes him black too, right? So it said Canaanite captives in Egypt being led. Now, Egypt is black too, ain't he? So he lead his brother into captivity then, ain't he? But I got my suspicions about this. But I'm just showing you that they call these people Canaanite, and then we got black people here, right? All these people that we dealing with right here are black people. Go ahead and read.
This relief, which portrays the general appearance of the Israelites.
Hold it now. The Israelites look like the Canaanites? Well, if the Israelites look like the Canaanites, wouldn't that make the Israelites black then, if they look like the Canaanites?
Indeed.
Seeing that the Canaanites, that's Ham's fourth son, which we just gonna call them Africans, because that's what we call them nowadays Africans. Go ahead and read some more. So this is the general appearance of Israelites. Go ahead.
As well as Canaanites. Is a good representation of the typical Semite of the day.
Hold it now. So Semite, that means Semitic, which come out of Shem, right? So now, if the Semitics, if they are black, Ham is black, then I wonder what color Noah was, and Japhet. I wonder what color they were. I wonder, Abraham, he was Semitic, wasn't he? I wonder what color he was then. We got all these black people we dealing with, don't we?
Yes, sir.
And he said the Semites, they look like this too. They look black too. So wasn't Abraham a Semite?
Yes, sir.
I wonder what color he was then. He said this is the general appearance of the Israelites as well as the Canaanites. It is a good representation of the typical Semite of the day. Go ahead and read.
Note the noble, aristocratic features, particularly the finely cut noses and the long hair and beards.
Oh, that's why I got my suspicions about this. He said the long hair and the beards. Who did the Lord command to wear long hair and beards? The Israelites.
Yes, sir.
Well, go ahead and finish this.
It is commonly thought that Israelites had hooked noses. But these were originally Hittite or Ammonite features.
Those are still the sons of Ham. Hittites and Ammonite. These are Ham's children, which are black people. Finish that.
It goes on to say that from the temple of Ramesses III at Menedus Habit in Egypt.
Oh, so you mean Ramses III? He was a black man too? That's right. We are dealing with all black people right here. Now, let's go look at something else here. Let's go to Acts the 7th chapter. And we're gonna pick the story back up with we're gonna finish the story with Jacob and Joseph. Acts 7, or Joseph rather. Acts 7, and we're gonna pick it up at verse 15. Acts 7 and 15. We're dealing with, he said the Israelites look like the Canaanites, didn't they?
Did.
And those ancient Israelites don't look nothing like the ones today, do they? We in Acts the 7th chapter, and we're going to pick it up at verse 15. Acts 7 and 15. Don't go nowhere. Acts 7 and 15. Go ahead and read.
So Jacob went down into Egypt and died.
And he died. Go ahead.
He and our fathers, and were carried over into Shechem. And laid in the sepulchre that Abraham bought for a sum of money of the sons of Emer, the father of Shechem. But when the time of the promise drew near, which God had sworn to Abraham, the people grew and multiplied in Egypt. Till another king arose, which knew not Joseph.
Go ahead. Because Joseph had died. Right? So it said another king arose that knew not Joseph. Go ahead.
The same dealt subtly with our kindred,
and
evil entreated our fathers. So they cast out their young children to the end they might not live.
Go ahead.
In which time Moses was born and was exceeding fair, and nourished up in his father's house 3 months. And when he was cast out, Pharaoh's daughter took him up and nourished him for her own son.
Now, we're gonna bag this up a little bit. We're gonna bag this up a here. Let's go to Genesis. Exodus, the 1st chapter. And first we're gonna show you how the Israelites were evil entreated in Egypt. So we're going to Exodus 1 and 8. Exodus 1 and 8. Then we're going to get to Moses. Exodus 1 and 8. Because, you know, the Israelites, they helped build Pharaoh treasure cities, which they built pyramids. You wondering who built these pyramids? Israelites built some pyramids too, during the times of Ramses III. Let's go to, we're at Exodus, the 1st chapter, and we're going to pick it up at verse 8. Exodus 1 and 8. Go ahead and read it.
Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
See, because, you know, they were having so many babies. You know, when they went into Egypt, it was 70 souls, but when they went out, it was 600 and some thousand of them. That was just the men, though.
That's right, brother. Yes, sir.
Israel know how to have babies, don't we? Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. Verse 10. Come on, let us deal wisely with them.
Now, this is what the Egyptians said. You know, they more and mighty. It's more than them than it is us. Come on, let's deal wisely with these people. In other words, we got to do something about these people. Go ahead and read.
Let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply and it come to pass that when they're fallen out, when they're fallen out any war, they join also unto our enemies.
Go ahead.
And fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens.
He said they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. Now we're going to show you something right here. We're going to stop right here. We're going to show you something. This is an Egyptian flogging an Israelite. Now we want to show this whole picture now. And we want you to read that caption down there, yeah.
An Egyptian slave endures a flogging in the fresco from a tomb of the New Kingdom. The number of slaves in Egypt increased dramatically during the New Kingdom. 1570 to 1085 BC.
Go ahead.
As a result of foreign conquest, the Israelites were enslaved during this period.
The Israelites were enslaved. You see that? All of them are black, aren't they?
Yes,
look like one of the guys, he kind of trying to plead with the other guy. But then you see an Israelite on the ground getting flogged.
That's right, brother.
And what color is he?
Black.
He's black. All the people during this time were black. All right, that's good. So now, we see the Egyptians flogging an Israelite, which is black. I mean, you can't get around this from a temple in Egypt. You can't get around this, can you?
No, sir.
Now, I mean, the truth is the truth. Reality is reality. You can't get around it. These are facts.
Make it plain, brother.
These are facts. Let's go now. Let's go back to Exodus, the 1st chapter, and we're gonna pick it up where you left off at verse 11.
11.
Yeah, go ahead.
Verse 11.
Therefore,
they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh's treasure cities, Pithom and Ramesses.
See, they built the Israelites build pyramids. Go ahead and read.
Verse 12. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor.
He made them serve with rigor. Go ahead.
And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage. In mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field.
Go ahead.
All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor.
Go ahead.
And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Pure. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, they shall kill him.
So now, if you see a Israelite woman, she pregnant, when she had that baby, if it's a son, kill him. Why? Because the male carry the seed. If we kill the male, then that's gonna cut out the people.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and read.
But if it be a daughter, then she shall live.
Go ahead.
But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them.
See, they feared God. So it's like, no, we're not going to do that. Man, then who can kill babies anyway? You know, you're a midwife, you watching babies come all the time. Who could do something like so? God put on the heart, no, for them to say, no, we're not going to do that. Plus, they feared the Lord. But go ahead and read.
And did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive.
Go ahead.
And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have ye done this thing? Have saved the men children alive. And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively and are delivered ere the midwives come unto them.
He said, man, you know, they having them babies quick. We couldn't do nothing. We couldn't do nothing with them. Those Israelite women, they having those babies quick. But go ahead and read.
Verse 20. Therefore God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. And it came to pass, because of the midwives feared God, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river.
You see that? He said, every son that is born, you should cast him into the river. Go ahead. That's pretty cruel, ain't it? You're going to take a baby and cast him in the river.
Come on, brother.
Go ahead and read.
And every daughter ye shall save alive.
Now go on into 2 and 1. 2 and 1. Exodus 2 and 1. Keep reading.
And there went a man of the house of Levi, and took to wife a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived, and bare a son. And when she saw him, that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months.
Because Pharaoh was killing the children, right? So she hid him. Go ahead. For 3 months.
Yes, sir. Verse 3. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and daubed him with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river's brink, and his sister stood afar off, to wit what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river.
Now this, you know, here comes Pharaoh's daughter down by the river. You know, God was planning this all the time. God set this up. Go ahead and read.
And her maidens walked along by the riverside, and when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children.
Now you see that? She said, this is one of the Hebrew children. Go ahead and read. She knew that this was a Hebrew child, didn't she?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women?
Oh, wait a minute. Now, you see that? Moses' sister went to Pharaoh's daughter and asked her, can I take the baby to nurse this baby? Go ahead and read.
That she may nurse the child for thee? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother.
Hold it now. So Moses was nursed by his mother?
Come on.
Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages.
Take the child and I'm going to pay you.
Yes, sir. Come on.
Take the child and have it nursed and I'm going to pay you. The Lord was setting this up, wasn't he?
Indeed.
Go ahead and read, because ain't nobody going to touch Pharaoh's daughter's child, right?
That's right.
Go ahead and read.
And the woman took the child and nursed it.
So Moses' mother nursed him. Moses' mother nursed him. Go ahead.
And the child grew, and she brought him up. She brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son.
Go ahead.
And she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water. And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren.
Now check this out. He went out into his brethren. Well, who is his brother? The Hebrews, right?
That's right.
Go ahead and read. But Moses knew that he was a Hebrew. Not like we see in the movie, you know, they give him something, a little cloth or something. Oh, he's a Hebrew. What? No, he knew he was a Hebrew already. Go ahead and read.
And Moses was grown, and it went to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens. And he spied a Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian.
Hold it. So Moses slew the Egyptian. Defended who? His brethren.
That's right.
Which were Hebrews.
That's
so
right.
Moses, he knew he was a Hebrew. And he grew up in Pharaoh's house. His mother, which was Pharaoh's daughter, she knew that he was a Hebrew, didn't she?
Yes, sir.
Now, how did Moses pass? Because Pharaoh was killing the children, wasn't he? So how did Moses pass for an Egyptian? How did he pass for Egyptian? He had to be black then, didn't he?
That's right.
If he was white, like we see today, then Pharaoh would have known right off the bat, hey, this one of those Hebrew children. Let's kill him. Pharaoh probably would have killed him right there. So how did Moses grow up in Pharaoh's house if he was the same color as we see the Jews today? That was Pharaoh was killing them. Moses had to be black. That's how he grew up in Pharaoh's house. Skip down to verse 16.
Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters. And they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock.
Go ahead.
And when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian delivered us
Hold it
hand.
now. You see what they call him? He said, an Egyptian delivered us. Now, if he was another color, if Moses was white, they would have said a Hebrew delivered us. I mean, you can't just call somebody, if you got a guy that's Russian, or I go put on some Russian clothes, that don't mean I'm a Russian, do it. I'm still a black man, right?
That's right.
That's the same thing with Moses. He had on Egyptian clothes, but if he was white, then why did she call him a Hebrew? She called him an Egyptian. Why? Because the Egyptians was black, and Moses had on Egyptian clothes, didn't he? So they didn't know the difference.
That's right.
We know the Egyptian dress. Just like if you seen the Chinese, we know how they Japanese, you know how they dress.
Yes, sir.
But if I go put on some clothes, Japanese clothes, I'm still a black man, ain't I?
That's right, brother.
Same thing with Moses. He had on Egyptian clothes, but he was still a black man or a Hebrew. But she couldn't tell the difference because he was black, just like the Egyptians. What verse you stop at?
19.
You finish it?
No, sir.
Go ahead.
And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock.
So she called Moses an Egyptian, and we're going to show you later on somebody else who was mistaken for an Egyptian. We're going to go all the way down to the 1st century and show you somebody else who was mistaken for an Egyptian, which we know that the Egyptians are black, don't we?
Yes, sir.
Let's go. We know that the Canaanites are black, right? And the whole world know that the Ethiopians are black. Now, I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. Let's go now. Let's go to Numbers, the 12th chapter. Numbers 12. And we're gonna pick it up at verse 1. Numbers 12 and 1. And look who Moses married. Look what kind of woman Moses married, or what color woman Moses married. Exodus 12 and 1. Exodus 12 and even if we had Numbers 12 and 1. Even if we had read about Judah, Jacob's son, he married a black woman. We had Numbers. I don't know why I keep wanting to say Exodus.
That's okay.
Numbers 12 and 1. Let's see what color a woman Moses married. 12 and 1. Go ahead and read it.
And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Egyptian woman. The Ethiopian. I'm sorry, yes. And Moses, because of the Ethiopian woman, whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman.
See, Moses married a Ethiopian woman, a Cushite woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a black woman Moses married. Go ahead and read.
And they said, have the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses?
Now this is Aaron and Miriam. Now they talking stuff to Moses. Go ahead and read.
Has he not spoken also by us? And the Lord heard it. Now the man Moses was very meek above all.
So they were speaking against Moses, and the Lord heard it. And the Lord heard what they were saying. Go ahead and read. We're going to read through this. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Now the man Moses was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. And the Lord spake suddenly unto Moses and unto Aaron and unto Miriam. Come out, ye three, unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And they three came out.
See, the Lord was so mad, he called them out the tabernacle. Then came down. Go ahead. This is how mad he was with them speaking against his servant. So you better be careful when you speak against the servant of the Lord. But go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. Verse 5. And the Lord came down in the pillar of the cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth.
Ooh, he must have really been mad. He came down. I'm finna to meet y'all personally and talk to y'all. He was really mad at them, wasn't he?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
And he said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, and the Lord will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream.
Go ahead.
My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all my house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth.
He said, I'm going to speak to Moses mouth to mouth. All the other servants and stuff, I speak to them in a vision or a dream or whatever. But not so with my servant Moses. Go ahead.
Even apparently, and not in dark speeches. In the similitude of the Lord shall he behold. Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?
He said, why come y'all wasn't afraid to speak against my servant Moses? Go ahead and read. In other words, they wasn't showing them no respect, was they?
Come on, brother.
Because Miriam and Aaron were older than Moses. So, you know, this is our little brother. Skip him, you know. Lord talking about all of us. But no, the Lord pick whom he will. I don't care who the oldest, who the youngest. Male or female, the Lord pick whom he will, wouldn't he?
That's right, brother.
Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir.